It's usually difficult for non-Crimeans to understand what life is like for people who don't recognize the occupation but are forced to live with it. What does occupation feel like from the inside?
It's difficult not only for non-Crimeans to understand, but also for the Crimeans who are loyal to the occupation authorities. They pretend that nothing is happening, but really there is a de facto occupation regime in Crimea and the Russians control everything there. They have a principle: loyalty is a must. Neither dissent nor denial is welcome. Moreover, it's not allowed.
During the 3 years of annexation, who disappointed you the most and who surprised you?
I don't want to say who disappointed me. Some people whom I considered close and whom I trusted turned out to be collaborators and to some extent traitors in my eyes. My friends, colleagues, mentors are among them. I just don't want to say their names.
Who surprised you among the people you didn't expect to?
It's pleasantly surprising when people who already had to adapt to the occupation regime don't lose their hope, trade in their values, or swear an oath to the de facto Russian authorities in Crimea. For instance, one man, Serhora Karametov, who carried out a solo protest, was given a 10-day administrative detention and fined 10,000 rubles. Since then, 8 people took to the streets. When they were fined, 100 people came out. I'm sure that if those people were fined, 1,000 would come out.
Another way in which people show their support for the arrested and missing people is through duos, prayer sessions. But even these events seem to be monitored by the authorities.
Despite the fact that we're constantly under surveillance, that's one thing that's not forbidden. The authorities simply can't ban praying.
Well, you can't call praying an unauthorized rally.
But there were attempts to do that. It didn't result in any punishments, but there were attempts. These prayers are usually followed by speeches in which people mention certain problems and talk about the situation in general. It's kind of a new method in the national movement. Prayers unite people, make them feel less alone, and they see that there are many other people who do not recognize Russian jurisdiction in Crimea.
Is it hard being monitored in this way? Do they try to hide it?
They don't hide. They just come, sit down next to us and join in with the event.
Are they locals?
Usually they're people from the federal security services or the police.
What is the attitude towards people who, for example, used to work in the Ukrainian law enforcement agencies and have now joined the Russian police?
It depends on the person. If someone is aggressive or rude, then people's attitude towards him will reflect that.
There are even representatives of the Mejlis who have started cooperating with the occupation authorities. The clergy have tried to justify the actions of the military in Crimea. At the press conference, Akhtem Chiygoz said that he had received proposals like this. What about you? Have they approached you personally? What do they offer in exchange for stopping the repression?
A criminal case was opened against me because of my position, my opinion, my convictions. My criminal record is clean. With regard to me, I haven't received such proposals, but I've heard of them.
Haven't they asked you to keep silent?
Of course, they told me that it would lead to nothing good, that I would be arrested despite my age, my diagnosis. I faced that. However, nobody has asked me to pledge loyalty or recognize Russian jurisdiction in Crimea. I've never received these kinds of proposals. Maybe it's because they know me and my position well.
You have experience with struggling against the system. You started working to protect the rights of your people while you were still in high school.
When I was in the 10th grade, together with a couple of my classmates and my younger brother Bekir, we handed out brochures calling on Crimean Tatars to fight to return to their homeland, to Crimea. Then a criminal case was opened against us, which didn't amount to anything. A lot of people gathered and they simply couldn't start the court hearings. We were then invited to the party's regional committee. Its secretary, Shamsudinov, told us and our parents that the case would be closed, that they had brought us up well and we would bring benefits to our homeland. That's how the case was closed. On October 12th, two FSB colonels from Moscow approached me. They said that the Turkish president had agreed with the Russian president to release me, and they suggested I write a letter to Putin asking for a pardon. When I refused, they resorted to methods widely used in the USSR. They said that Akhtem Chiygoz had already agreed, that Mustafa Jamiliev and Rafat Chubarov had let us down, that they will travel across the world, stay at expensive hotels, drink expensive coffee, while we serve our sentences. The conversation went badly, because we almost kicked them out. So they started threatening to send us to the Harp colony in Yamal-Nanets in the far north of Russia. After that, we didn't communicate, so there were no other proposals. Then I was taken from the hospital and brought to Simferopol airport. When they put me on the plane, Akhtem Chiygoz was already there. We didn't get a chance to talk or greet each other. He sat at the end of the plane, I sat in the middle. 15 people accompanied us. The plane landed in Anapa to refuel, and then we flew on.
Did you not know about the agreement with Turkish President Erdogan then?
I only knew that Erdogan had a conversation with Putin, but I refused to write a petition for a pardon. I had a feeling that they were taking me to Siberia, but when I saw the houses with red roofs and the Turkish mosque from the cabin window, I realized that we were flying to Turkey. The plane landed at Ankara airport. 200 meters away from the plane, there was a bus with several people in it. Akhtem got off the plane first and went to the bus. Then I was shown the way. There was no contact between those who were accompanying us and those who met us.
So they just showed you the way to the bus?
Yes, and I walked from the plane to the bus. There I greeted and hugged Akhtem for the first time. I haven't seen him for 3 years.
In a way, Russia has achieved its goal. Both you and Akhtem were physically removed from Crimean territory. It's like a soft way of getting rid of you, right?
It's been a week, and I still don't know whether it was an order or not. Nobody showed it to me, and nobody imposed any conditions on whether I can enter Crimea or not. It's been a week, and I still don't know whether it was an order or not. Nobody showed it to me. Nobody imposed any conditions on whether I can enter Crimea or not. If not, then why not? I've already made several statements, but will repeat it once again. I want to return to Crimea.
What is your dream?
To return to Crimea.